What up, everybody?
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Sipping with Serpents, episode 22. We have a very special guest backstage, Nick Mutton. If you don't know him, you're fixing to. This is going to be a fun-ass episode. So I hope everybody's got their cold brew or their green tea handy. I'm going to go ahead and run through a couple little sponsor deals real quick and shout-outs, and then we'll get him up and get going through the comments. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Justin, he don't get down with the W, but I drank the W. If you're tired of chest pains from energy drinks, go to W Energy and use Trip 6 Serpents 10 for 10% off. For real, dude, that shit's real, man. You act like that, but I feel like an old fart when I drink energy drinks. I get like that, like.
See what I just done?
Go ahead. I'm gonna put the QR code up here for this right here. Everybody, please go to gapsecosys.org if you're wanting to try a new substrate. That's Trip 5 at checkout. That's 5% off your first order if you want to just get a little try bag, a little sample, and try it out. I really enjoy it. I've been using it for a while. I've used it for a while before I started advertising it because I don't want to lead anybody down the wrong path. So I like it. So why not?
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we'll go ahead and bring our guest of honor up, and then we'll run through a few comments and say what's up to everybody in the chat because they're blowing it up. I appreciate all y'all. But without further ado, we got Nick Mutton.
Let's go.
What's up? What up,
Nick?
Hey.
How's your Saturday? How's it going over there with your wonderful world of carpets? And I'm sure you got plenty of other pythons too,
I have 38 different species of python.
Let's
go.
I can count on my fingers the number of species that I don't have.
It's just easier that way. You don't have so many fingers.
I don't have a Moluccan python. I don't have any Bowen's pythons. I don't keep any chondros that I have over the years. That's 6. Is that it?
That's probably it, honestly. From everybody that I've talked to.
I do not have. That's it.
Yeah.
Every single other species and subspecies that exists that you can have that are unattainable. And there are, by my reckoning, probably 8 more that have yet to be formally described by science, but I have half of the ones that haven't been described also. So,
damn.
Let's go. Here we go.
That's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool.
Well, we'll give a quick shout out to a couple people in the comments and run through that, and then we'll get to know Nick a little bit better.
Come on.
We got Mitzi, what's going on? Always supporting, always here and supporting every show. We got Reagan Renee Royal Pythons. Been talking to them on Instagram today. They're pretty cool, pretty cool folks.
We got Duval,
what's up? Always. Vinny,
come on.
What's up? Bone Daddy. Benji over there in New Zealand. He watches all the way from New Zealand, Nick. That's pretty crazy, right?
He likes to chill on his dick.
On his dick, drink his beer.
It's his dick, but we know what he's saying when he says it,
We got Jay in the house. What up? Pumping out
What up,
that
Jay?
greatness. Everybody, keep a lookout on Jay because I'm telling you, I've been talking to the guy and just keep a lookout.
Come on.
What up, Kiko? I'm not even going to try to say it because I feel a little buzzed, off of different things, and I'm not going to. Flora Esoterica.
Flora Esoterica. There you go.
That's where I got my plants from.
John Mission. What up, John?
Love it. Shauna, thank you always for coming. Hell yeah. We got Dickie Foster. The Cookie Monster.
Wait, did you get Carl? There you go. There. Little endless shrimp over there.
Yeah, I got to give him a burp when I do him because, Jamie K, what up, Herb Collectors Network?
Come on.
Glad to see you. No, I don't think we've had you here before. Thanks for tuning in. See, I pay attention to all this stuff. See, a lot of people that do shows don't remember, but I'm lucky enough to have that little smidge in my brain where I remember. We got ripping reptiles good? What up? And last but not least, Jamie from the More Forge family.
Wait, you
Thanks
didn't
for
get Cookie
tuning in.
Monster. Did you get Cookie
I
Monster?
did get Cookie Monster. Fool, get off my chat.
All right, making sure.
Hell yeah. Well, hell yeah, Nick. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, man? Where you reside at, dude?
Born in Hawaii, currently live in Washington State. Been here most of my life, so this is definitely home.
Hell yeah.
Not exactly a hotbed of herpetological activity, but
Come on.
a little bit here. But yeah, no, it's a good place to be. I live on the eastern side of Washington, so it's not quite as congested. Traffic's not quite so bad over here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So how long you been doing the whole Python thing?
I don't know. Over 30 years.
Come on.
Yeah, everybody that I've talked
Most
to.
of the time I've been alive.
Yeah, everybody that I've talked to and said that you were coming on the show, they're like, man, he's the carpet king, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody says those sorts of things, and like I keep so many other things. I had 11 clutches of Antaresia this year. 11 clutches of them. Like every species.
Hey man,
all
that's how it works, right? You get stuck with something, and that's what you get stuck with, and that's just what it is.
It doesn't matter how much of this other stuff I produce. I mean, that's a huge portion of what I do because it's my favorite.
Well, you were like a big reason why there's a lot of what there is here, correct?
Yeah, facts.
So I mean, I guess that is why they say it, probably. You know.
I mean, I developed some of this stuff. So a lot of this. There's a good period, about 10 years there, where the bloodlines of stuff that we had in the United States were whatever we had, and there was a lot of other bloodlines of stuff that was different in Europe that we did not have. But logistically, it's really a pain in the ass and very expensive and time-consuming to import that stuff, and very costly. So over about a decade, in many shipments, I basically brought over everything from Europe that we did not have.
I said you worked with a pretty big guy over there in Europe as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Paul Harris is
come on.
He's the real OG of this stuff. He's a good friend, known him for a long time. But
hell yeah,
over the years, I was able to map every bloodline of every species of carpet python that they had that we did not have. I brought over founding groups to get established over here. So that's a lot of several of the mutations they had that we didn't have. I brought over. All the ones that we had, we didn't have, I brought over. All the bloodlines that we did have, every locality line that they had that we didn't have, everything. I pretty much ran out of things to get. There are a couple other bloodlines that are kind of like, do I trust that that's what it is kind of thing? But things you could be confident in, realistically.
So I got to ask, what's your favorite species of the carpets?
The Brettles python, hands down.
Yeah,
I have way too many of them.
So they win by default.
My collection is ridiculously inefficient in that I think I have 16 adult females of that species alone, but they can lay 25 eggs. So what am I doing?
That's a good bit.
In a typical year, I only breed about 25% of my female Brettles python. That's it. In a year, 75% of them are just sitting there doing nothing, taking up space, eating, making giant turds, not making babies.
But you could rotate and give them that more like break, more or less. You could one year be like, okay, I'm gonna use these females, or next year I'll use these ones. You know,
that's a topic of conversation that I think a lot of people, especially if they're a ball python centric sort of audience, really understand some of this in the sense that ball pythons are this completely artificial alternate universe of this. There's no semblance of reality to anything else at all in the hobby. They are completely 100% domesticated. All of their reproductive metrics are artificial. This idea that males breed at 6 months and all females breed when they're 18 months, and they grow like crazy and they all breed at tiny sizes and they live forever and they breed every single year is so not normal but it's so people think that's normal, and it's just
not.
Also, ball pythons are, I don't know how many people are listening. Somebody will probably understand that. The idea of what a tropic level is.
No.
Okay. No. Tropic level is basically you have an ecosystem and you've got predators, you've got prey, you've got all these different cogs in the wheels and the gears of an ecosystem. Trophic level is like basically like who you are, how high on the ladder of the food hierarchy you are. Are you down the bottom where everybody eats you? Or are you the apex predator where you eat everybody and nobody eats you? And how high up you are, that's your trophic level, okay?
Right.
Ball pythons are at a low trophic level, which means their reproductive metrics are naturally different, and then we've just gone way off the deep end with domestication. Animals, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, but animals that live at a lower trophic level always reproduce smaller, younger, and more often because most of their offspring get eaten. And even the adults that made the offspring also get eaten. They never get to a point where they have nothing to fear. So they got to get in there, make as many offspring as they can, as long as they can, because they are low on the food chain.
Come on.
See, now to the other end of the spectrum, like let's look at a great white shark. They reproduce incredibly slowly and rarely. A great white shark isn't even sexually mature until it's 20 years old.
Yep.
Because you can't pump out 1 million great white shark babies. You'll eat yourself out of your you can't. The ecosystem won't support that. So the higher trophic level animals reproduce less and less and less, and the lower reproduce more and more. Pythons generally are higher up on the food chain as adults. The ball pythons and the Antaresia genus are very low in the food chain. They get eaten by, other pythons eat them. They get eaten by everything, even the adults. So ball pythons will breed every single year for 25 years in a row. That's not normal. Antaresia, the children's python, spotted python, Simpsons, are like that also. Literally nothing else is like that. A really bitter truth that people working with other pythons don't want to talk about, and maybe they don't even realize it, but if they think about it, they'll realize it, is that realistically, for the vast majority of python species, if you ever get 2 or 3 clutches of eggs out of that female in its entire lifetime, that is about all you can realistically expect. Anything more, and you are on borrowed time, and that is a bonus.
Bonus, yep.
I've had carpets lay 6, even I think it's 6 clutches, the most I've ever had one lay. And the female's still alive. The founder female hypobrettal. She's done really well. But you know how many females I've had that got to adult size and never laid a single clutch, laid 1 clutch, laid 2, and then never. It's a long list of 2 to 3 clutches and nothing ever again, or sometimes nothing at all.
See, it's crazy you got. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's crazy you say that because I used to have an argument with actually my choochie next to me all the time, which we're friends. We have the friendly argument more or less. But like with the 1,500 gram thing with ball pythons, where all these old school breeders you say that, and I'm like, that was to hold you back. I was like, I ultrasound, and I have a girl that's at 19 millimeters at freaking 900 grams. I paired her. She gave me 4 great eggs, and I had a great ass clutch, and she looked healthy afterwards. I had no problems. And I was like, see, this is where, then that's where you're kind of saying, like, you know, they're going to maybe do more often and smaller clutches. So to me, that snake was in great health. There's nothing wrong with it. And she's freaking pushing, doing what she's doing. So it just blew my mind because, like, when you say that, it's like, I feel like a lot of old information, especially in the ball python world, there's a lot of misinformation to stir people off in the wrong direction so they can stay ahead of the other people. If you get what I'm trying to say.
It's less about misinformation and more that the reproductive metrics have changed with domestication.
That too.
Domestication is you see all the hallmarks of domestication are increased trends toward docility. Check. The color and pattern mutations tend to pop out at lower adrenaline output because as you selectively breed and domesticate animals for mellower animals, particularly piebald relate strongly with lower adrenal gland output. Mutations start popping out when the adrenaline levels get lower. You see that in ball pythons. Younger ages at reproduction, you see that in ball pythons. Smaller sizes at reproduction, you see that. All this is because they're domesticated. So 30 years ago when I got into this, ball pythons weren't even the easiest python to breed. And you'd be lucky 1,500 grams was a small female. It's that 1,500 gram old school rule of thumb that goalpost is now way over here. It's moved way over here because we've domesticated 30 years ago.
Okay.
Generations of that's 15 generations of ball pythons ago. It's moved. It might have been that there. You also used to have to temperature cycle your ball pythons to get them to be even remotely interested in breeding.
Yep.
Now, don't. Everybody just thinks you stick them in an 82-degree room with no heat tape and they just magically do it whenever.
Oh, hell no. You
gotta, at all.
Yeah.
It's all because they're a fully domesticated, just like your dog or your cat. All their wild reproductive metrics and what we used to have to do don't apply anymore because it's been the fastest any species of anything's ever been domesticated in history. It's insane how quickly those processes happen. But yeah, this is why a lot of these people make dumb choices when they breed pythons. You can fuck around with ball pythons because you know what? There is always another clutch next year because the female's probably going to lay 20 clutches in its life, maybe 25. I know of females that have laid more than that, 28 clutches by one female. I know of a children's python that laid over 20 clutches. Like, you can just do something stupid one year and then do something better the next year. But if you've got a Timor python, you better choose your pairings wisely because you're only going to get a few reproductive events, probably. You know, I'm sure someone will pipe in and say they got 5 clutches out of a Timor python. I was like, well, that's awesome for them, but that's rarer than rocking horse shit. That's
right.
More. Like if you average it all out, it's 2 or 3 clutches. Like I said, I get the occasion ones 5 or 6, but I've got a whole laundry list of 0 and 1s also, and it averages out to with most of their stuff. Because even a carpet python is an apex predator. Nothing eats an adult Bredl's python. They have no natural predators. None. The only thing that even could eat one as an adult would be a wedge-tailed eagle. And in that tussle between an adult Bredl's python and a wedge-tailed eagle, it's just as likely that the python would eat the eagle. So it's not. They don't. It's
not the higher tier for sure because
so
they're
you're
not
that apex predator that lays a lot of eggs. You can't just keep laying 25 egg clutches every year for 20 years. Like there's not enough in a very resource limited environment. So you get this. So you have to constantly be worried about that or aware of that going forward they don't just keep reproducing forever. I brought in a new bloodline of inland carpets from a guy named Reinhold Maug that are unrelated to the other ones that I also brought in years earlier. And my original pair, they bred 3 years in a row, 1, 2, 3. Then I decided to be nice and gave the female the 4th year off. The damn snake hasn't laid another egg in 9 years. She's totally fine. The male breeds like crazy. Still, I got baby. He produced with another female this year and last year. That female, I gave her 1 year off, and she decided, you know what? I'm just done forever. She eats. She's fine. Wamena scrub pythons. I bred them. So
basically, giving her that break kind of fucked the whole situation up. You could have just kept running, and she'd have been all right.
She ain't never gonna do nothing. I have scrub pythons, but my Wamena scrub pythons. 1, 2, 3, 3 perfect clutches in a row. Thought I'd be nice and give her the 4th year off. Yeah, well, that was 2-3 years ago. So she's now decided she liked to have 4th year off. She took year 5 and 6 off also. This will be year 7. Let's see if she does anything. I'm not holding my breath. She gave 3 good clutches, 1, 2, 3. I'll bet she never lays another egg.
Damn.
So how many babies are you pushing a season of everything together? I guess all of your baby snakes. I mean, how many are you?
Try to come in at around 3 to 350. I do not want more than 350 because if I was breeding ball pythons, shoot the moon, give me 800 babies, no problem at all. Because they eat mice. Like they're mammal eaters. If you have 20 ball pythons and you put a live hopper mouse in there, you're going to get 18 of them are just going to eat the damn thing. And then you have a little trouble getting the other ones going. Everything I keep eats lizards. So 350 babies instinctively are looking for skinks and geckos, whole other ball game. You get them, and they're not, spoiler alert, no one's ever been fed a gecko or a lizard ever. But you will play hell getting them feeding. Some are not that bad. Some will eat on the first try. But like the Antaresia, which I produced 78 babies this year in total, they are obligate lizard eaters. They're too small. I mean, you fight like hell to get them to eat. They can be very, very, very difficult. So the amount of time you have to spend messing with them to get them eating is a lot higher. So I don't want to have, I think it was 2014, I produced 638 babies. I did it for science and because I wanted to answer some genetics questions. Basically, that was the year I proved out the super caramels as being super caramels.
Come on.
But I don't just, there's a trend in the hobby, and the ball python people are probably the most guilty of this, but it doesn't matter. It's boas, it's everything. And that is that someone has something, they think it's a new morph, and they really, really want it to be a morph. And they convince themselves it's a new morph. And then they declare that they've proven it out without really proving it out. They see one encouraging result. It's like, well, it's like usually to properly prove something out scientifically, it's a multi-generation thing. And people do the first of 3 steps and then declare victory and start selling offspring. And they haven't proven anything. And I am not doing that. So I bred caramel to caramel. I made super caramels. which are kind of akin to like a super pastel. It is just a more extreme phenotype. But a caramel and a super caramel overlap a little bit. The high end of one and the low end of the other, just like in a pastel, kind of gets a little murky in the middle. The edges are very easy to detect, but there's a little middle ground. So I wanted to know for sure. So I had 5 super caramels. I bred all 5 of them to
those kind of take the pattern away too. Don't it kind of wash the pattern away?
You get a little lower contrast. It takes away more dark pigment, so the overall contrast goes down.
Okay.
But they, all of them proved out. But to prove them out, I had to breed all of them, even the females, to animals that weren't caramels or possible super caramels that couldn't possibly make any form of red offspring. So that I would know, do I get 100% caramels? And every damn one of them proved out. There was 140 caramels, just caramel coastals that year, because they all proved out. Then after that, I had male and multiple proven females. I've just been able to breed proven supers that I proved out scientifically to each other, and I can sell babies as guaranteed supers. I don't care what it looks like. If it's ugly, it's an ugly super. I don't have to do this again. I'm in the process of doing that with the hypomelanistic coastal carpets now. I have one proven super hypomelanistic male. And that is probably more of a dominant thing, where the line between heterozygous and homozygous is very blurry.
Okay. You might as well just go ahead and get into that right now.
Yeah, let's do it. We're already talking about it.
He brought it up. So
there it is, heterozygous and homozygous. That's the words I was trying to come up with earlier, Nick, was those right there.
The only 2 words that matter. None of it else does.
Yep.
I guess we're going to discuss morphs and how they really work and how inheritance actually works and why a lot of what people believe is nonsense and what the correct terms are. And but we're going to go there, I guess. So there is so much, like, I don't want to say misinformation in the hobby, because that implies that someone's intentionally trying to be deceptive. But there is a lot of just bad information, incorrect information, misinterpretations of things. And it's pretty rife in the hobby. So, well, for example, like if you refer to something as being heterozygous, 90% of the hobby or more will assume that it must be talking about some recessive gene, when it doesn't have anything to do with how it inherits.
They hear het and they run with it. You know,
they say something ridiculous like, "Oh, het, that's a het trait," or like that's not even
the het. I know, bro. I'm with you.
The word heterozygous means you have one copy of an allele. That's all it means. The word homozygous means you have 2 copies of that allele. So at that locus where that gene is, okay, where that you have you're heterozygous, you're homozygous. If you're heterozygous, you have 2 different copies, and if you're homozygous, you have 2 of the same copy of the same iteration, because there's multiple different versions of everything floating around. The only terms, this idea, incomplete, dominant, recessive, doesn't really matter. Heterozygous and homozygous is what matters. That's what matters. It's like people tell you, like, oh, you can't be heterozygous for, a spider ball can't be a heterozygous, a het spider. It's like, it is. A spider is a het. It's het for dead, but it's a het. It's heterozygous for this mutation. The homozygous animals are the dead ones. The ones that died near full term in the egg that have no pigment. Those are the homozygous spiders. It doesn't matter. So
that's kind of like, what would that be, like a super? The one that's visual and living? Would that be? I'm just fucking with you. Because of what you said. I mean,
the term super is sort of embarrassing, but it's so entrenched it's not ever going to go away. This is a hobby term that I know geneticists must just shake their heads at, that our hobby insists on using the term super, which is so blatantly unscientific. It's like you're just homozygous. That's all it is. Super, like it's almost embarrassing at this point, but I recognize that's not going away.
What is red hair? Does that make me a super?
You're homozygous.
Am I homozygous or am I heterozygous? What am I?
Sure, if red hair is
right
inheritance of red hair.
Yeah, I'm just fucking around. Yeah, no, it gets ridiculous.
Like, for the record, all these same rules of engagement as far as how genes work and the interplay of that is the exact same thing in human phenotypes. For the record, all of the different genes that make up all the different, like what you'd call racial sort of classifications in humans. And I'm talking eye color, hair type, and skin color. All of that put together, it's like 12 genes. That's it. Those 12 genes, that makes up all the different looks of people. It's 12 genes. And those genes are all super recent. They only go, you can run a molecular clock, and most of them are only about 12,000 years old. So since at the beginning of the Holocene, at the end of the last ice age, 12,000 years ago, that's when all those genes came into existence. Right around that time. So
that's fucking crazy.
Prior to that, everybody was brown. It's like there wasn't anything. There wasn't a lot of variation in that. Weirdly, blue eyes came about earlier than light skin. We know that early Western hunter-gatherers in Europe were like dark skin, dark hair, but blue eyes. Like, we have their DNA, we have their skeletons, we have their DNA. It's like, yeah, these were kind of,
that's pretty wild.
Kind of
over the years,
dark hair, but blue eyes, and then pale skin. Those mutations come about a little bit later as people moved into northern latitudes, because it's all just about, it's no different than keeping an iguana, and you need UV light. Why? Because that same concept where you need to allow a certain amount of UV light into your skin to process vitamin D3 and calcium, that whole nexus that we have to deal with lizards. Same thing with us, which is why light-skinned humans occur at northern latitudes where they get less direct sunlight. They need to let more UV in because they get less sunlight to allow them to process the vitamin D3 calcium thing. And why, if you're closer to the equator, you have darker skin, because you don't want skin cancer and you don't want to get too much of it. It's all about regulating how much of that you let in at the latitude where you live, so you keep your body healthy.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about one time on the show, about how if you have like albino monitors, or I guess anything that's albino, even like tortoises or anything, if you keep them outside, they don't need to get so much of a direct sunlight as other animals, because it can be bad. They need more shade. You know, what do you think about that?
I don't keep any albino lizards, but it is going to be, and I know there's people that want to keep albino lizards and want to believe that this isn't going to be a problem, but it is. If you have a sun-loving animal that wants to bask in the hot sun, and it is an albino, it may not go well like in the longer term. You're going to have to factor that in to how you take care of those things.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, because they're mostly nocturnal and don't need this. They don't need, physiologically, they do not need UV light at all. And I know there's probably somebody who's going to argue that one with me, but there is this much evidence that says they need UV light. Basically nothing. Like, it's like they do just fine. So
I know my monitor that's outside, you know, it loves the sunlight, but I think it likes the heat aspect of it more. Because the heat, because you'll notice it'll get in its hide. There's like a hide that gets a back wall, and it's all the sun. It heats up that hide, you know. And she's always in there. So I feel like you might be right. I mean, I feel like they might not. I mean, for the most part, like a water monitor, for instance, they're spending all their time in the water mostly, or in mangroves, in a shaded area. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not really sunbathing on the fucking beach. You know what I mean? Like,
I've found a tremendous number of monitors in the wild in Australia and New Guinea and whatnot, Southeast Asia and stuff. And I don't think they need UV. Like, lizards that need UV are like herbivorous lizards and stuff, because if you're a carnivorous animal and you're eating other animals, you're getting a fair amount of calcium readily from your food, whether that's from the exoskeletons of invertebrates. A lot of monitors eat crabs and stuff. Like, I spent like a few weeks camping in New Guinea and the islands off the Bird's Head Peninsula and everything. And the most common bug you'd run into was a crab. Crabs in trees, crabs way high off the ground. Like, they're just crabs pretty far inland. There's a brisk business in eating small crabs if you're a monitor or whatever.
I feed my monitor like seafood, like hard shell stuff, like shrimps, crabs, if I can get them cheap enough, like the little crabs, just all kind of shit like that, you know. And it loves the hell out of stuff like that. I feel like it's their favorite thing.
Years ago, I was sea kayaking in Thailand, off the coast of like Phuket in southern Thailand, and kind of kayaked out to this little island that was like a donut-shaped island and had a cave. So it had like an inner lagoon, but you could only get at it in this underwater cave that was at low tide. So you had to like kind of lean way back with your paddle and skirt in underneath this thing, and it's right above your head. You had to, could only be there for a certain amount of time. You had to get out, because otherwise you'd be stuck till the next low tide. And we're cruising in, like right on the side of the island, there's like all these like barnacles and mussels and shellfish, and there's a big ass water monitor in salt water just sitting there on the side of this rock, just crunching and eating mussels off the side of this rock.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool as shit.
Wait, salt out in the ocean and salt water just splashing on them. They're just eating this stuff.
Hell
That
yeah.
is cool. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
monitors are one of my favorite species of reptile. You know, like specifically like water monitors. You know, like the bigger the better. They're an intense animal that deserve respect because they are up there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're up there.
Few animals that stumbled onto the perfect recipe for evolutionary success for an incredibly long period of time, and they're still basically the same animal. I mean,
for sure.
Different, but you could go back 100 million years and find a monitor that looks like a monitor, just doing monitor stuff.
Yeah, maybe a little bigger. Maybe the size is a little bigger, but for the most part,
even then you had big ones, you had small ones, you had all these different sizes. You had marine ones that had, you know, mosasaurids are effectively marine monitor lizards that just have flippers instead of arms, but they're just.
Now, you said you've seen them in the wild. Did you see them in the city a lot, like in the nasty ass water?
There is a big population of them, and when you go like Bangkok in Thailand,
yeah,
their version of like our Central Park in the middle of Bangkok, and there's this huge amount of water, and there is a big population of big ass.
I know it's so wild that I always tell people I'll clean the water monitors water. It's got this big water feature, you know, and I'll clean it and like actually chlorhexidine it and scrub it down, and then as soon as I get done, you know, I'll feed it a few big ass whole shrimps, you know, and I'll go out there within an hour, right, just to hang out, smoke a cigarette, whatever. And there's shit and piss all in it. It's destroyed. And it's just laying in it, loving it, flicking its tongue with a urate on top of its head. And I'm like, you are fucking disgusting. But I feel like they like it. I feel like they like to be nasty.
I'll say that the water that we were finding them in Bangkok, I wouldn't want to go swimming in it. Pretty gross. Pretty gross.
They're like an apex.
Pretty nasty, and there was a lot. There was a big population of them. Probably saw 30 of them, including some great big ones. They were doing quite well in this park.
Eating garbage and shit. Yeah, eating fucking Big Macs, sitting on the Bangkok Big Macs.
Right in the middle of a city of like 15 million people. Like Bangkok is massive, and they're
for sure, yeah,
doing just fine. Urban monitor lizards.
Say, Kyle had a question up here.
Yeah, he did.
What is the oldest species or family of snakes that is still around today?
That is difficult to say with certainty because when you get back I don't know that anyone has done like. I've not had occasion to look anyway. There's a concept in biology or a technique in biology called a molecular clock that you can kind of get a rudimentary idea of how long it takes for random mutations to occur and how often that occurs. And so if you have lineage A over here and lineage B, and you basically count the genes that they have different from each other, you can kind of trace back to a point where they would have diverged from each other. And you can get a rudimentary estimate using their DNA of when they last shared a common ancestor. And this is how you determine how old lineages are. It's the best way to do that. It's complicated. You usually have to calibrate it with like a well-dated fossil and all of that. But using a molecular clock, you get rudimentary ages for most of these groups. I do not know if anyone's done that with the most primitive snakes in the world are blind snakes. So they are microstomatans, which means they can't open their mouth very far. That is the most primitive basal group of snakes in the world. But even that, there's a lot of diversity with those guys. So I don't know if anybody's run it, or I've never had occasion to look up just how old that goes. Groups that are alive today, that you do have dates on, boas are about 100 million years old, more than twice as old as pythons. Pythons seem to be 45, 50 million years old as a lineage. Boas are way, way, way older. And people always seem like they think that pythons would be older because our bias as mammals that give live birth. We think that live birth is somehow a better system. No. And it's just a different system. So the idea that boas are older and pythons are later doesn't compute for some people. And in fact, pythons seem to have outcompeted boas because it works better.
I was reading something before this show about how they used to call, I think it said they used to call carpet pythons boas. They used to classify them as boas a long time ago when they were doing the research or something, or it was one of the, they always, and that's right. That's the way it is though, right? I mean, it's always a classification thing no matter what at the end of the day. So you basically just call it whatever someone else calls it, essentially, you know.
Over time, though, over long periods of time, you can go far back and find just ridiculous classification schemes that were way off. But as time goes on, we learn more, we learn more, we learn more. It gets more and more and more accurate and stuff. So what you think now currently is pretty damn solid.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Years ago, when no one knew what DNA was, like, or any of this stuff, they just, cloacal spurs like a boa from South America. It must be a boa. Like,
well, I always say it's all this is like everything that we do as people that breed snakes or whatever, keep reptiles. It's all just a big science experiment anyway, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you never stop learning is what I'm getting at. And with science, you never know it all. There's always more to learn, and you always learn more, and you learn more information about different things. You know, I don't feel like you can ever stop learning about a species of animal.
I have spent pretty intensively the last 20 years studying this stuff in minute detail. The evolutionary origins and biogeography and kind of the deep nerd level stuff with regards to pythons and boas and whatnot. And the most humbling thing that comes out of that is you realize that you might know more about this than just about anybody, but the amount that you know is so unimaginably dwarfed by this mountain of stuff that you do not know and that you will never know and that you will probably never even know that you don't know. Not only do you not have answers to these questions, you don't even know about the questions that you even ask. You also don't know. So it becomes very humbling. It's like, yes, the more and more I know, I can know all this stuff. But you become increasingly aware of this just Mount Everest-sized pile of stuff that you don't know and will never know. Will never even realize that you don't know.
That's it. And people need to not get so butthurt when they figure out they don't know or they didn't know everything. Just be humble, get over it, learn from it, move on, right?
Well, you feel like that question. As science progresses with this kind of stuff, people like to say, like, oh, this discovery rewrites the textbooks. That's bullshit. Nothing ever rewrites textbooks. That's not even what happens is a process of refinement. It's like, it is almost never do you see a new discovery that completely changes everything. It's almost
not a humanity, what do they call it? A Nobel Peace Prize.
It's like, oh, now you have another data point and it tweaks things a little bit. You're still going the same direction, but it changes things at the edges, and it doesn't completely. It's almost never a complete rewrite of anything. It's like you further refine. You get a better date. You get a more further insight into how things happen, and you do find new things. But it's rarely do you find something that completely upends everything.
Well, Justin brought up a question. We'll let that sit there for a second, and we'll go ahead and run our vision commercial. And I'm going to take a quick little break because I had a hernia surgery a week ago or so. So I got to walk around and get my bearings and get me another beer. So we'll answer that as soon as we come back from our commercial.
Vision Products has developed the slotted stainless steel Versa Rack, the best rack at the best price. The slotted stainless steel Versa Rack allows you to place multiple overhead light and heat sources above your breeding tubs. Couple this with optional Vision heat cables to also provide an underbelly heat source. Each pin of the rack design, making it modular, affordable, and easy to assemble. This design avoids expensive welding, yet maintains rigid strength and durability. Countless hours of design and prototyping led to the perfect end plate design to make the rack strong, easy to assemble, and keep manufacturing and shipping costs low.
It's like Chuchi always says, www.visionproducts.us. My bad. Go check them out.
Or got a little click on the draw, didn't he? I'm talking about.
Come on. Got custom aquariums, custom stuff. Hit them up. Check out the website, guys.
The QR code's over there in the side. You know what I'm saying? On the side, you know.
You can scan it. The website. But yeah, let me pull this question back up. All right, so we'll have a Python portal. He said, also, how important is lineage when it comes to breeding? And also, is there one species more important than others, more or less?
I'm a little unclear as to what he's asking there. As far as, is it one species more important than the others where lineage would be more important?
I'm assuming that's what he's asking would be, is there more one species important than the other when it comes to lineage pairing the two?
A great deal by what species you're talking about.
Okay.
Some species, like ball pythons, you don't really need to worry about genetic health of the animals. Well, weirdly, you're paradoxically trying to stack broken genes into one animal, but the gene pool of, there's so many ball pythons that came into the United States that gene pool is so huge that it's not really, you don't have to worry about inbreeding depression related, those sorts of problems. With some of the stuff I work with, even some Indonesian species, certainly all Australian species, you have an incredibly limited gene pool. What you got is all you got, it's all you're ever going to get. So in that case, lineage tracking does become important, knowing where things came from. Also because a lot of these things have been extensively, and as bad of an idea as it is, they can't help themselves, so extensively hybridized. If you want to have a pure whatever that's not a hybrid, it becomes difficult. You need to know what the ancestors were. You need to know and ask those questions, or you're probably going to get a hybrid. If you just bought a random carpet at an expo, just any random carpet, there's a 95% chance it's a hybrid. Even if the person told you it was pure, there's like a 75% chance that they told you wrong and it's still a hybrid. It's that bad.
Damn.
So we are so far down the rabbit hole of that nonsense that you can't just take somebody's word for it. So if you were to go to my website, you could go to my lineage records page and you would see a family tree with the ancestry going back 1 million years for every single clutch I produced for the last 22 years. Every clutch. You can see the great, some of these lineage trees go back 9 generations. So if I say this is a pure jungle carpet, you can have confidence in that because you can see what its great-great-grandparents were in the 80s. Like you can see all that. It's not just, trust me, take my word for it, it's a pure jungle carpet. That's not good enough, frankly, anymore with some of that stuff. There are a lot of species where it's not that bad. But carpets are one of those cases where it becomes very important.
Now, I feel like kind of with the jungles over time, too, I could be wrong, but because I just kind of started researching and getting into them. I just got my first carpet and working on more that I'm getting by the end of the month and whatnot. But with the jungles, I feel like the older jungles were definitely not as yellow as nowadays. Is that with line breeding that they're doing that and just pulling out the more yellow? How are they?
No, it's not even. It's just not true. Here's the thing: you can only be so yellow and only be so black.
Okay.
So you can't just keep getting more yellow because there's only so much yellow to get. And the sort of maximum amount of just how bright a yellow snake can you make and how black of a snake can you make to have that contrast. The maximum yellow and black ratio was achieved about early to mid 90s. So 30 years ago. Since then, it's just been more of the same because you can't get more black than jet black and you can't get more yellow than bright canary yellow.
Okay.
So there's nowhere to go. You could fuck around with breeding for striping instead of banding. You could fuck around with breeding for wide bands, wide yellow bands, or narrow. You can mess with those metrics. But the yellow-black thing, you can't mess with. It just
mess with? Okay.
What it is. The reason why the older animals look like they're not as bright is because they're older animals. And and this dovetails with what we originally were going to talk about as far as ontogenetic color change and these other things and the genetic underpinnings of that. But carpet pythons and all pythons, your ball pythons go through it, most pythons go through, and boas go through an ontogenetic color change, which is why a lot of snakes look really different as babies than they do as adults. The color changes. If you have a baby red-tailed boa, it looks like one thing when it's baby. It ain't going to look just like that when it's adult, is it?
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
No, it's going to go downhill precipitously. You look at a ball python, no matter what it looks like as a baby, it's going to be tan and straw colored as an adult, pretty much. Why is that? Because you have two rounds of pigment distribution. You have a base layer of pigment that is present when the animals hatch, and the animal hatches with whatever it's got. Then, as that animal grows, there's a second round of pigment distribution, whether that's black pigment or yellow pigment. There's no such thing as red pigment. Whether it's black or yellow, there's a second round of pigment distribution that goes on as the animal ages. And that second round of pigment distribution is governed by different genes than the base layers of pigment, which is why you can hatch out a snow ball python, a snow boa, a snow carpet, a snow corn, and it looks super freaking white baby. And then as it gets older, it gets all this yellow. Where'd that yellow come from? That yellow, because that gene that silenced the base layer of yellow pigment only silenced the base layer of yellow pigment. The genes responsible for the second round of yellow pigment distribution that comes with age were unaffected by that. So you have an animal that starts out looking like it's devoid of yellow pigment and gains some later.
Yep. I say, so now we're kind of on that. I know we want to blow some people's minds tonight with the axanthic, so let's go ahead if you want to break that down with the ball python community.
Right. Here it is.
As you said earlier, listen, I'm going to be honest. I got into this, about 2017 with ball pythons, wanting to learning about it and everything. And I will admit, Kevin McCurley was really somebody that I researched his stuff, and he wrote a book, right? And that's why I've always went with what I've said and the things that I've thought maybe, and I've learned a lot that, kind of contradicts what he said and what other people have said, not just him. But, that being said, what you said about what you're fixing to talk about really blew my mind. And I really think it's a good thing to talk about, because I think a lot of people in this chat is going to be like, damn, I need to look into this. And that's how it's got me feeling.
There's a lot of ground to cover. We could talk about the actual mechanisms of how morphs work and what they're actually doing, and why some types of morphs have baggage and side effects and some types don't. And this, why are there two totally different types of hypomelanism? They're inherited different. They're two totally different things that are both called hypomelanism. Why can you have 5 types of axanthic that are incompatible, but only one type of albino and they're all compatible? And there's a lot going on with this stuff. So to start with axanthics, basically everything everyone told you about axanthics was a lie. None of it was true. It was all bullshit. Also, if you have an anthristic snake, you don't have an anthristic snake. You have an axanthic snake that isn't an axanthic snake either. All of that stuff is the same thing, and it's all mislabeled, and everything they told you was lies.
Come on.
Well-intentioned lies, innocent lies that people genuinely believed, but mostly because they regurgitated what someone told them. It's all false. What we call anery and axanthic are not anery or axanthic, and they are not recessive. They're both the same thing. They are incomplete. It's an incomplete dominant mutation, and it is hypoxanthism. Snakes do not have fully differentiated yellow and red pigment. You cannot be an anthristic if you did not really have red pigment to begin with. You cannot lack a thing you never had. So right off the top, there are no such thing as an anery boas. There certainly isn't a type 2 anery boa, because it can't have an anery boa. It's the same thing. What happens is, oh, it's a ball python, we'll call it axanthic. Oh, it's a boa or corn snake, we'll call it anery. It's a carpet, we'll call it axanthic. It's like, do a little thought exercise, anybody listening. Think of any snake you can imagine. Doesn't even matter. And almost invariably, if it's a snake that gets bred in captivity in any numbers, there is an albino and either an axanthic or an anery. But there is no snake that has an albino, axanthic, and an anery. Why is that? Because anery and axanthic are the same thing. You can't, hundreds of thousands of imported ball pythons, millions of these things bred in captivity, and no one's popped out an anery ball python. Isn't that weird? Because they don't fucking exist. Because they're axanthics. And they're not even axanthics. They're hypoxanthic.
I'll say, so it is. So when you said hypo earlier, so that's what I was going to say. When you said hypo earlier, so it is a form of hypo then, correct?
No.
No?
Hypo just in this sense means less. Hypo is just a Latin prefix. It means less.
Okay.
Hyper means more. Hypo means less. So hypomelanistic, less melanin. Hypermelanistic, more melanin.
More melanistic. Okay.
And if you put the prefix of just A in front of it, amelanistic, no melanin. So Axanthic would be axanthic, meaning no yellow. But anybody that's ever seen a snow of anything, there's a shitload of yellow. So it can't be axanthic. It has to be hypoxanthic.
Exactly.
Because it's less yellow. It's a reduction of yellow, not a elimination of yellow. And the thing with the red and yellow pigment is that the structures in the cells that contain those pigment precursors are the same structures. You cannot selectively just remove some. It gets a little bit wonky and in the weeds, but the easiest thing is to imagine red and yellow pigments as a spectrum of a single thing as opposed to two separate things. You have a spectrum of pigment that starts at what we kind of look at as yellow and ends with what we think is kind of red over here, and it's one thing, not two different things. In carpet pythons, you have a popwood carpet. You showed it to me before we went on air. All popwood carpets are bright red, and I'm talking bright red babies, okay?
Oh, it looks gorgeous.
There are axanthic popwood carpets. There's 13 of them behind me. The ones with the green labels, those are axanthic popwood carpet babies. Now, if they were axanthic popwood carpet babies, and all popwood carpet babies are bright red, what color should the axanthic babies be?
Black and white.
No, they should be bright red because the axanthic should just
Bright
black out
red.
yellow
Okay.
and leave the red. But they're not.
Okay.
They're silver because red and yellow are the same thing.
Bang.
You don't have. There's no such thing. But the boa people, the cornstick people, they will fight you like hell on this. But yeah, it's like, where's the axanthic boa? Where's the anery ball python? Why does no snake ever have all three? Also, and what we call axanthics and aneries is one thing. It is the most common type of mutation you will ever find. The odds of I read this somewhere and I can't remember. I wish I could find the source. I can't remember, but you read a lot of stuff. I tend to read a lot of.
I know it blurs, right? And then you read a bunch of stuff that contradicts other stuff.
Somewhere on my hard drive, on my desktop, I'm probably looking at the folder right now where I have folders full of academic papers. And in one of them, it quotes a number. And I don't know whether they just pulled this out of their ass or whatever, but it quantified the odds of a random albino mutation occurring at 1 in 10,000. Okay? Of a random spontaneous mutation for albinism, for amelanism popping out. If you assume that for anithrism or erythrism, axanthic and anithristic respectively, is the same as albinism, then you expect 1 in 10,000 odds on that as well. But they're way more common than albinism. Why? Primarily because, well, they don't get eaten in the wild. They're much less likely to get preyed upon, so you have a higher survival bias. But mainly because there is only one locus you can break to make an amelanistic animal. It's one. So your odds are all on this one gene tweaking and making an albino. And that shuts down the process of melanin synthesis before it gets started. Animal starts with no black, never can gain any. It just disables the entire system. With the yellow/red pigment, that's a more complicated process. And there are multiple genes that you can break. It's this long, picture the genes as like links in a chain. And you got a length of chain. And each of those links in that chain, and the beginning and the end of the process of this chain, this length of chain you got in front of you and all of its links, that is the yellow/red pigment synthesis pathway, you'll say, all right?
Right.
This is the process of how you make these pigments. And if you break any of those links in that chain, the system breaks down and you end up with some sort of axanthic anery thing. Which is why you never get incompatible types of albinism, but you oftentimes get incompatible types of, there's multiple axanthic ball pythons that are incompatible. There's multiple anery boas that are incompatible because there's more of those genes. So the odds, if there's 5 genes you can break to make an axanthic, you're going to see 5 times as many axanthic genes popping out. Yet nobody's got all 3 in one species because it's all the same. You're just calling the same thing by different names in different species.
Right.
Also, it's never recessive. Never.
It's never recessive.
Fucking stop.
And only in the ball python world, it's recessive, right? Only in the ball python world, right?
At all. The problem people get is that now
I'm loving getting into another species like the carpet. It's like, and now I'm learning this. It's like this is where you little
carpets because I don't hybridize anything. Here's a problem with ball pythons and why you don't notice that it's not recessive. Because you have like if you, in a normal ball python, you have a baseline level of variation in how much yellow pigment that thing's going to have. Okay, that's what makes the brown. It's going to vary, but it's not going to vary that much. It's going to be, the goalposts are going to be fairly close together, and anywhere in there is the amount of yellow it can have. Maybe a little more, a little less. It's in these goalposts.
Right.
When you start stacking genes, and you have a shitload of mutant genes, some of those genes
code going to fight
for
others.
Increasing yellow pigment, some code for decreasing yellow pigment.
Yep.
So the background, the level of variation and the baseline level of variation in a 5-gene combo isn't like this anymore. It's like this. So if a het, for axanthic ball python, let's say it's about an 80% reduction in yellow pigment in the homozygous animals, but it's like a 25% reduction in the heterozygous animals. Now, if you have your standard deviation yellow pigment is this wide, your goalpost is just if it's just a normal and it's het axanthic, you'll totally be able to tell because they're very close together. If it's also a yellow belly and a fire and also a vanilla and it's a Mojave all at the same fucking time, your goalposts are this far apart. How are you going to notice a deviation?
You ain't going to notice it. You're not going to notice it barely.
The difference when the background noise is this wide, it gets
right.
And they say it's recessive.
Well, it's crazy because when you said that, it's like I have seen where, like, say, het axanthic and one simple gene, you know, pastel or something simple, you could see it really doing its job in that het.
I noticed,
you know, but it's one copy, not 2 copies, so it's technically not a het. It's actually, you know, just one copy sitting there.
In the early 2000s, I bred a lot of ball pythons when that was really blowing up and stuff. But back then, there was like a lot of lower gene count animals, and those were going for huge money. So when you made you make like a pastel that was het axanthic, it was obviously lost a lot of. You have like a pastel and a pastel that was het axanthic, and side by side is like that is obviously lost a lot of color. Like, right. It's not. It's because it you know the difference became very.
You didn't run axanthic together to see that. You had one copy over there, you know.
But your standard deviation was very narrow, and it was there's this one other thing, and then you could really see it. Now you're not gonna be able to detect it in something now. Does anybody have a 2-gene ball python anymore? No, everything's like 900 things. It's the background noise.
I do. I keep you know, single, double. You know, the craziest shit I got is quad hets, you know, or you know, whatever you want to call them.
But that's why you don't see it. In carpets, you don't have nearly as many morphs. So most people don't see it and want to argue with me because those people that do it, they're hybridizing snakes. Well, okay. If the axanthic coastal carpet gene, okay, coastal carpets are generally pretty gray snakes. They don't have a lot of yellow to begin with.
So it makes them really black and white looking then already.
It makes them really gray and pale and faded looking.
Faded? Okay.
So axanthic coastal is a species that doesn't have a lot of a lot of yellow pigment anyway, but that's where coastal axanthic line comes from. Okay. So it's so obvious if you have pure coastals that are axanthic. If you breed het axanthic to het axanthic coastals with nothing else in the mix, it is so obvious which ones are carrying the gene. The hets are closer in phenotype to the quote-unquote visuals than they are to normals. The normals stand out the most. The hard part is figuring out what's a het and what's a visual. It's that close.
Right.
But when you hybridize these things, so let's say, I'm going to make up some numbers just to make this analogy work. Let's say that I'm going to make up imaginary units of yellow pigment. And let's say that a normal coastal carpet has 100 units of yellow pigment. And being heterozygous takes away 25 units, and they have 75, and you can totally see. And being a homozygous takes away 80%, and they only have 20 left, and it's really obvious. But then when you hybridize that snake that has 100 parts, its normal range is like 100 units of fictitious units of yellow pigment, and you hybridize it with a jungle carpet that has 500 units of yellow pigment. Now, the baseline level of variation isn't 100 units, around 100 units. It's anywhere from 100 to 500 units, and everywhere in between because you made a hybrid. You don't get it's, and then you will not be able to pick apart the animal that's heterozygous if it's half jungle carpet because you blew up the range of variation with so much additional yellow pigment potential that you can't notice that 25% decrease. It's completely swamped. So if you add other morphs and you make hybrids, you've just blown the goalpost so far apart that you can't notice that small deviation in the hets. It's very obvious to me because I don't make hybrids. It's super obvious.
Yeah, you can see it more than anyone.
You need like a worker for a couple weeks, you know. I come do free labor, you know. I'll fly, just teach me a bunch of shit.
I put a picture in the latest edition of the Carpet Python book. I put a picture of 2 poplar carpet hatchlings. They were like, I think they were only like 10 days old, difference in age. And the mother of one clutch was the sister of the father of the other clutch. So they were pretty closely related. The only difference was that one of them was het axanthic and one of them wasn't.
Yeah.
One was a het for granite and one was a double het axanthic granite. And they're just, for the picture, they're sitting right next to each other. And they look like 2 different species. If you just looked at the ones that are het axanthic by themselves, oh, that's a red baby poplar carpet. Then you look at it, what it's supposed to look like, and it is so obviously like 3 shades less red pigment.
Nice.
Less red/yellow, all the same thing. It is really obvious. But if you look at just the one snake in the vacuum, you don't notice it.
Right. Oh, mine's definitely like super red for sure. You can definitely see that it flares it out on it, you know. And I out of all the babies in the clutch, I definitely chose the reddest one of them all. I was like, I really like that one.
It never sticks around. With all the Indo-Australian pythons, you can do a thing called ancestral straight reconstruction, where you take all the descendant lineages of a common ancestor, and if you start looking for the common things they all share in common, or the most of them share in common, the most likely, parsimonious is the scientific term, most parsimonious explanation for all of them having these characteristics is they all inherited it from their last common ancestor. And with all the Indo-Australian pythons, what you'll find is that the last common ancestor was probably something very similar to a carpet python. It wouldn't be the species of carpet python you have now, but it's something like that. Probably 5, 6, 7 feet long, semi-arboro, the prehensile tail, made red babies, and had a double neck stripe on the back of its head and a skull and crossbones head pattern.
Oh yeah.
Because you see that double neck stripe, skull and crossbones head pattern in hatchling green tree pythons. You see it in scrub pythons. You see it in spotted pythons.
Yep.
You see that most scrub pythons, not all of them, have red babies. 2 members of the Laius genus have red babies. There's a red-faced baby in children's pythons. Most of the carpets have red babies, not all. There's all this. The odds that all of these different lineages that all diverged from each other roughly 25 million years ago, all independently evolved prehensile tails and a skull and crossbones in their head and red babies is ridiculous. The last common ancestor had all those traits. And subsequently, some lineages have lost this trait or that trait, but they all came from.
I have to say, I think the carpets look way better than GTPs. I could have gotten GTPs, and I was like, fuck no, I want carpets. They look sicker to me. Like coming in here, when I come in this room and I now see that carpet just chilling on his branch, I'm like, that is
more interactive. You can get them out and mess with them if you want to, and you're not going to break their tail vertebrae, and it's
right. That too, you know, I can handle it, dude. It's freaking
a little more hardy.
No, I kind of want to get into that too with the husbandry with the carpet.
Condors are actually the easiest snakes you'll ever keep. The problem that people have with them is they fuck with them too much. They fret over them so much, and they end up fucking up. They're super easy. I had a Maruki chondro female or male that sat in a tub, no heat, no light, a paper towel, a water bowl, and a single stick, and a tub on top of a rack in my snake room for 3 years. Never had a bad shed, never missed a meal, and was freaking great. Did nothing. Just left the damn thing alone. It was like I finally gave it to a friend because I didn't have a female, and I thought maybe you'd track down a girl for it. It was a rare specimen. But yeah, they're not hard at all. They're really quite easy to keep.
So I gotta ask then, are you doing your carpet?
About it so much, they stress about it. They're trying to miss them all the time, and they just stress them out. It's like, leave them alone.
Right. So I gotta ask, are you doing your carpets in rack systems, or are you doing enclosures?
Yes. I have so many damn carpet pythons, and any way you could possibly house them, the answer is probably yes.
So you do it both ways then? You do it both ways?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's this sort of like new age reptile keeper movement that racks are evil and all this kind of nonsense. It's like racks
those people suck.
Yeah, they suck. Yeah.
Racks are, it's just an ignorant sort of, and all those people saying that have a bunch of snakes that all lived in racks. Because could you imagine if you would like, what do people think they're going to do? They're going to breed a clutch of ball pythons and put all 5 babies in 4-foot bioactive enclosures or something.
Right.
What would happen if they did? They would all starve to death because they would never eat and they would crash and burn. It's like
my question is to you then, for somebody like me that's getting into it, should I do a stackable of 4x2x2 enclosures, or should I do a rack system for carpets? Is what I would say.
What's the difference between size is what matters.
Right.
Whether it's a tub what's the difference between if you had a tub that was 2 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot, and you had a cage that was 2 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot, why would the tub be evil and the cage would be great? It's the same damn thing.
Same damn thing.
Easier to clean the tub because you can pull it out and reach in.
Most cages aren't even 2 foot high. Let's be real. Most of them you see are like a foot,
like 20 inches, or it'll be 18 inches,
What matters is not the total absolute. You see people putting stuff in 4 foot, 6 foot tall cages, and mostly just making a cage you can't possibly eat adequately. And it's because they want to look at a tall cage. A snake doesn't care. Snake wants to sit on a secure perch off the ground. You're not gonna do that in a 6-inch tall cage, but you don't need to. It doesn't need to be super high. And beyond a certain height, it becomes functionally impossible to adequately create a proper thermal gradient. So in an unheated room, anyway. So you can do it any which way. I tend to think that the overall level of fitness, you need to have something sufficiently large to allow for fixed perches, so they can behave normally and exercise those muscles and stuff by grabbing onto branches. If you have you can do that in a big ass tub. You can do it in a big. I tend to keep my males a bit artificially small, so they all live in tubs. The tubs have perches, and the females get the biggest
tubs. Like, are you just doing like storage tubs, or are you doing like tubs like racks tubs?
I don't use a lot of like storage tubs because they tend to be made of thinner plastic and they tend to break, and then they change the molds to be different, and then your rack you can't get a new tub. So I don't use. I mean, there's some a little bit, in some of these racks, mostly for juveniles and things, but the bigger tubs are mostly like commercial tubs, food service tubs, which they'll make. Like Cambro makes them big. I breed Amazon tree boas, and I've got
like a bus tub, like a food bus tub.
Yeah, these are like
bus boy.
Deep, and then I routed out the front of them and put a Lexan panel in, and they actually have lights in the rack. So it's like it's a cage.
That's cool. You said that. Have you been I don't know if you keep up with Vision, but they've actually came out with all kind of new stuff for a rack system with the lights and the UVB and the heat and all that shit, man.
But I saw that during the commercial break. I did see that Vision just came out with a new line of tubs, just tubs, and a couple of those sizes. I'm like, ooh.
And keep a lookout, because the word on the street is not to, spill the beans too much, but they're making 5 foot tubs.
Yep.
So it's not, the sky's the limit with it for sure.
On the bigger side, some of those bigger tubs, I kind of thought I might order a couple of them just to kind of check them out and see how thick are they and kind of get a feel for them, because a couple of the newer sizes would be useful for something. Yeah, for sure.
And they got them with the lights, and that's what really blows me, Back in the day, you wouldn't have even thought to put a light system. Well, people thought about it, but they were like, no one ever really did it. There's not really. They have the Versa rack and stuff like that you can you could keep whatever baby tortoises or what the hell ever you wanted in it, I guess, if you were breeding, and it's pretty cool, man, honestly. And speaking of that, I got a couple things I need to mention real quick, and then we'll continue. This is a crazy, fascinating conversation. I'm like, my mind is being blown, but I have a shout out. I have to give. I've been doing a shirt contest, and I'm going to announce the winner. I had a few people reach out to me with the designs. We're going to do this a few times a year, so don't be discouraged if you ran out of time this year or didn't get your submission in. But we're going to go with Platinum Morse.
Let's go.
Thank you. Printify actually just refunded me my money yesterday, so I will get this shirt out to you. You need to DM me the correct address this time, and that's going to be on the Printify. So if anybody wanted one, check the Printify in a couple days, and it will be up there. Thank you, Platinum Morse, for that. Really appreciate that. And I have an ad. It's really quick. It's like a minute and 18 seconds for my buddy Kiko puts on a show in Virginia. It's called I don't remember what it's called, but we're about to find out. But it's like live music, beer. It's at a brewery. It's free entry. It's pretty cool, man. So we're gonna check that out, and we'll get right back into this.
Beasts, Brews, and Botany is the most unique reptile show in Northern Virginia and maybe in the country. It's at Eavesdrop Brewery that has delicious alcoholic beverages and a wonderful array of food in the area as well. Courtyards to chill in. It's dog friendly. It's kid friendly. You can bring the whole entire family out. You can get all your plants, arachnids, reptiles. You could get dart frogs, vampire crabs, and take photos with reptiles as well. The first Sunday of each month at Eavesdrop Brewery is Beasts and Brews, so the reptile show. And the second Sunday of every month is Brews and Botany at Eavesdrop Brewery. Now, this event is held by my good friend Kiko, and he actually has a variety of carnivorous plants as well. He ships said carnivorous plants anywhere in the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. So that's Venus flytraps, sundews, any carnivorous plant you could want. Go give him a follow at Flora Esoterica on Instagram and Facebook. And definitely, if you're in Northern Virginia, you need to check out Beasts, Brews, and Botany. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, everybody, go check out Kiko at Flora Esoterica and check out the show. It's every month, so you don't want to miss it if you're in the Virginia area. And tell them Nick from 666 sent you. Might get something.
Like it would be awesome. Like I wish
they
did,
right?
Yeah.
Because I got to be honest, like I do all the Region Northwest reptile expos, but I don't do it because I need the money. Like I don't. It's not. I question whether it's even worth it for that. But you do it because the reptile community and all those other vendors that you know, that kind of is also your extended family. Like those are all my friends. I just think I find myself bending at shows because I want to go see my friends and hang out. So
that's why I do it, for the social interaction, and that's actually a guy down there that puts it on. So shout out to you, dude.
Food and drinks, and I can just play up that aspect. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and it's craft beer. They have like beer ice cream and shit. Like they have live music, and the kicker is, this is the kicker for me, right? It's free. He doesn't charge admission.
I just think it'd be like just play up the.
Really, just show up, buy you some beer, and buy you some food, and hang out more or less.
Get a Venus flytrap. You know what I'm saying? Leave with something. They got Beast, Brews, and Botany. You know what I mean?
About this hobby is that your hobby, or in my case, it's my job. It's like this becomes your extended family and your social circle. It's a community, and that's a big part of it. And that's like, there's not many hobbies like that.
No, there's not. And like Jesse said,
are people you met in the hobby.
Yeah, they just go to hang out with their friends. They said, "Yep, that's how it is." It's a great. That's what I love about it, Nick. I really do. And you know, there's a lot of drama that goes. We won't even talk about that, but it does happen in any kind of hobby. But yeah, you just got to overcome the bullshit and just stick with your group of people and people that are real.
Oh yeah,
and it's never a bad time, you know.
Yeah, no, I love the social aspect of it.
Yeah,
I can make enough money sitting at my house. I don't need to go to an expo. So it's a big pain in the ass, but I have friends I only like 4 times a year, every expo, about every 3 months, and I want to go hang out with my friends and go out to dinner and do that. And that's a good time.
So that's about what you do, about four or 5 shows a year or so.
Yeah, there's like 2 a year in Portland. One's I got to be there Friday. I got to go to Portland for the biggest one of the year. One guy, a friend of mine, puts all 4 of them on. So there's like 4 big shows every 3 months, alternating back and forth between Seattle and Portland.
And actually, Jamie asked earlier, that one that you just showed, she asked earlier where you could get carpets from. And I don't know if she heard me, but I said the guy right below us. So you here talking tonight, Nick. He is the carpet guy.
I have more of them. It doesn't even matter when it is. There's never going to be anybody that has more of them available at any one time. Come
on. I know I'm going to be hitting you up for some now.
We come behind me from this year, and there is 7 species in those stubs. And there's more I have multiple snake rooms in multiple places. So in my office here, and actually my house, there's an incubator room over there. This is where the carpet babies from this year go. My snake building is a room for yearlings and holdbacks and stuff. So
you're just doing, are you doing belly heat, or are you just doing more ambient temp in there?
Carpets, the only thing that does good with ambient is retics and ball pythons and sometimes bloods, because they're basically domesticated. Everything else, you'll never get them feeding unless you give them a hot spot. So they all have back heat to provide a little bit of I'd grab one out and show how they're all set up, but you know, if I do it, guaranteed to be one that just dropped the deuce in its water bowl or something.
No, yeah, you're good, man. You're good.
Like,
So
even
you
though
do that.
I cleaned this room yesterday, mind you.
What I will say, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple here in a minute. You know, showing a couple baby snake and tail if that's an option. But yeah,
see, what I've been doing with mine is I have like an arboreal enclosure type deal, so I put it in that during the day, and I have the heat lamp down on it, which is at like 80 to 85 maybe for it, and it loves that. And at nighttime, I pull it out of that enclosure because the lights go off, and I put it in with my rack system at around like 87, 88, and it has a heat spot in the back, and it does its thing. It loves it going in there. Now, would you suggest anything that I'm doing wrong, or should I do something different, or what?
They want to be about 80 to 82, 95% of their lives. They really, but it's important that they have an option to get up to about 90, but they will only really use that if they are gravid or they just ate a big meal.
I noticed that.
82 is where they're going to be all the time, and then they eat a big meal. They're going to sit on the hot spot for like 4 or 5 hours, and then that's it.
That's it.
Digestion, and that's it. And gravid females in the later.
I did notice that. I did notice that big time. Because I fed it a couple meals, and it was like, all right, I'm going right to the hot spot.
But it's important that they have that option. But they won't want to use. They won't use it. They'll only use it in those times. But it's important that it's there. They don't do great in the full all ambient sort of situation. They're much more stable in their reproduction and everything. So yeah.
So you could basically do a rack system with just 80 to 85 more or less in there for it, and it'd be fine. Pretty much a good bit.
Like 80 in the front, 90 in the back, and they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
There's so many. I hesitate to ever give people like housing recommendations because other than broad strokes, because there's so many variables.
Yeah, there's so many variables to everything, you know.
Where do you live? What is your local climate? What is their house made out of? Does your house make north?
What do you run your AC at? You know, what is your, you know?
How is your, what kind of heat do you have? What's your local humidity in the wintertime? All these things, like what the wall that your snake's cages or racks are up against, is that an interior wall or an exterior wall? Huge difference.
Right.
Is the wall facing south, north, east, or west?
Yep.
Mainly the north-south thing. Like if you're on an exterior wall in a poorly insulated house that faces south, that wall is going to get hot in the summer, and it's going to heat the back of that cage up. So you can have a thermometer at the front of the cage that says one thing, it's not telling you the truth. Correct. A glass tank up against the wall, and it's like an inch away from the wall. Well, the front, they got a stick-on thermometer in the front of it. I think that's telling them accurate. But there's a pocket of air between the back of that glass and that wall. Depending on what that wall, what its orientation is regarding the sun, what that wall is made of, how much insulation there is, and all of that, whether it's interior or exterior, you might be trapping a pocket of cold-ass air between that cold wall and that cage, and it's super cool in the back of your cage. It's running way colder than you think it is.
It's funny you say that because I do pressure washing, and the north side's always the moldiest side, so it gets the less sun side. So I always know that. So even because I'm in Florida, I keep a lot of my bearded dragons out. Well, my bearded dragons stay outside all year long. They go in brumation outside, every damn thing. The winter doesn't even get nowhere near cold here where I'm at for them, so they're great. They go in brumation, they're great. But I knew that I couldn't go put them on the south side to where they're just going to get constant sun all damn day. So they're kind of on like the east side of my house to where it's like you're getting half and half, you know. So like you have to be very specific to where you put them in your yard when you do these things. They want
to have access to basking in the sun, but they also need to be able to get away from it.
Away from it, correct. You know, and that's where like I've had so many people hit me up like, man, you do your bearded dragons outside. How do I do it? I'm like, look, you can't just go put them like. What is your spot that you want to put them outside first? Where is
like Nick said, there's so many variables. Are you wanting to put them on the north side, the south side of your yard?
Right. You know, you have to be so specific with that shit. It's not like it's not just a quick, easy thing for sure. You know.
Funny conversation with a friend of mine. Her name is Sonia, and she lives in Minneapolis. And she bred Australian olive python. She's like, yeah, I didn't even temperature cycle them at all. It's like, the hell you didn't? Like your snake room is a poorly, questionably insulated garage, detached one-car garage in Minneapolis. And the year she bred him was the same year it was on the news that Minneapolis was colder than the surface of Mars.
Colder, yeah.
Was warmer than Minneapolis. It's like, you may not have actively done anything, but you passively cycled the shit
You
out
did.
of them.
You absolutely did.
They were aware that it was that cold.
Pressure change and temperature change. They are very aware of that.
whether or not you need to temperature cycle things or food cycle things or both of those, the cycle of calories in, calories out seasonally and temperature, both those things play a role in reproduction of any pythons or boas, almost most animals. The relative importance of those things is weighted by species. The closer you get to the equator, the more the food cycle, ramping up of calories, will push things towards ovulation. And the further away from that you get, the more temperature is the primary driver. So your Australian species, temperature is the more important driver than food cycling. But when you get to like Indonesia and Papua, where you're right along the equator, the food cycle is more important. Both metrics matter, but one is which one's the primary driver will change.
Well, like you said, ball pythons don't really need much. And I've learned that, when I first got into ball pythons, I would do temperature change and I would do different things like that. And you notice, I mean, it will make it a more prominent, like if you do temperature change, most of your females are going that year. If you don't do it,
at the same time, you'll get all your clutches in like a couple of month window.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you don't do that, you might not hit every female. She might not drop for you every time. And it does play a big role, but with animals like this, like ball pythons and certain pythons for that matter, I think, like you said, they're so domesticated that you really don't have to do that because they just know. They're going to know anyway when it's wintertime outside, even if it's a constant temperature in the house, because they can feel that pressure change. They can feel every aspect of seasonal change. If you get the 4 seasons or you do get the different, if you live in a state like South Florida, like let's say way down in the Keys or something, they're probably not going to, you might have to do that to get more enticing to want them to, want to do that. But
those people are more like yearly breeding because they have some that are going at certain times and some that are going at other times, kind of like.
And that's what that's what I'm getting.
Really, my ultrasound tell me when they're ready, because I can go through a whole bins and 4 of them can be ready at one time, and then months later 4 of them for another could be ready at another time, So I'm literally reading my tool to tell me more or less when they're ready,
Do you ultrasound, Nick?
No, I'm old school.
Palpate?
No, I don't even bother. Rarely.
Oh yeah.
Once in a while, but I generally don't even bother with any of it. I got this figured. I've been breeding carpets for so long that they're not that hard. They're harder to breed than. They're definitely harder to breed than ball pythons because you can breed a ball python on accident. Because
easy on accident, yeah.
Yeah, you know you're grabbing. Like that's happened to me. You can't breed a carpet on accident, but it's not hard. Like they're pretty. Some of them, like the Brettles pythons and things, you need to cycle them a lot colder. If, like into the 50s or low 60s before they even notice you did anything. They're just that cold tolerant. And the temperature is the big driver. If you don't do that, you might get eggs, but you won't get consistent clutches and consistent good fertility. You might get, I have people arguing with me. Well, I didn't cycle my Brettles. I got a good clutch. It's like, yeah, congratulations on your one clutch ever. Like
right. Try it again.
Really, I tell you that
like a 1 in a million chance. Good for you.
Better than 1 in a million. But I'm saying if you want,
yeah.
It's basically this. It's like anything in life. When in life has people will tell you like that. When have you experienced this phenomenon where doing the least amount of work and being the laziest somehow brought about the best result?
Yeah.
The answer is fucking never.
Never.
It's always what you get out of something correlates strongly with what you put into it. If you put more into it. So anybody tells you like just don't do anything at all, it's like, and that's the road to success. It's like because they got lucky once. But I'm telling you, with a lot of the stuff, like consistently, I don't want if you want a half a clutch half of the time, then go ahead and do that. I want good clutches all the time.
Yep.
So I got to do more. I want that consistent good results year in and year out, and that requires a bit more work. But it's easy. It's not difficult at all. Some things like poplar carpets, you could damn near accidentally breed them. I'll bet you could probably accidentally have like a 6-degree temperature drop at night without even realizing it, and still get it. You could probably.
Hell yeah.
You find the poplars are the easiest carpets to breed. They're also one of the easiest ones to get feeding, which is weird. But they're just very agreeable.
Oh, mine! I got it from Kyle, and in 2 days it took like three ASFs, no problems asked. And I was like, "Damn, you went through travel, everything, and you didn't give a fuck."
They don't
and I was like, "Let's try it,"
If carpet adult goes off food, it's either gravid or it's going to die. They generally don't, or it's in shed. If it's not in shed, It's not gravid. You should be worried your snake is probably going to croak. They generally don't do. I mean, sometimes you get fussy eaters, but it's pretty rare.
Right.
They generally are pretty good eaters, and don't.
I'm definitely excited for my journey with it for sure. I'm going to get it a handful. Not just doing the populin. I'm doing a handful of other ones that I want to do. Like I want to definitely learn the car. So I told Nick, man, if I would have known this years ago before I got into the balls, I would have had nothing but carpet sitting behind me because I'm just intrigued now.
There's a lot of them, and there are a lot of different species, different subspecies. There are morphs, there are localities, a lot there.
Right.
If ever there was a group of animals that didn't need morphs, it's carpets, because there's so much natural variation within each species and so much variation between species that you can have there's populations that look axanthic naturally, There are some that look like axanthic that are blue. They're like an axanthic with blue tones. There's a whole species of them. They're called inland carpets. There are black and yellow ones. There are orangish, red, and yellow.
What's the black and yellow? What's the black and white? That's at the zebra. I think I've seen. Is that?
No, that's the really only black and white carpets are jungle carpets that I invented. And that means that they're ivory jungle carpets, which is a selective breeding project I started in 1994. So 31 years of selective breeding over 9 generations. I made black and yellow snakes, black and white. And I'm talking white, parchment white.
Yeah, no, I've seen them on your Instagram. I've seen them on your Instagram. They're beautiful, dude. They're fucking beautiful.
Not a thing that's just like around that you could just go by, and that's just me being really patient for a very long time.
I already got a zoo over here. I got parrots. I got every damn thing, man.
Anybody you could do anything like that with carpets. They respond really well to selective breeding, and you can create anything you want if you're patient.
Patience, yeah. So what? I have a question. What do you think? Do you think that it's because I know there's a lot of species, in the industry, a lot of different species where people don't really like people jumping into a hobby, new breeders essentially. Like, do you think that it's good to have people wanting, like, showing the want to learn, to want to breed them? Because like we said before, you can't really get any. There's not any going to come over from Australia anytime soon. So, you know what I mean? Do you think that it's something that is a good thing? Or do you think that it might be good if they did the research? Or do you think that it should just be left to the certain ones, a certain few that,
they're a perfect size snake. They're not shy. They don't hide all the time. They get better looking with age, not worse looking with age. They get less shy, and like a ball python starts out, the best it's ever going to look, it's still wet with egg goo. That's the high water mark. It crawled out of the egg and it's shiny and it looks the best it's ever going to. It's steadily downhill for the most. There are exceptions. I'll grant you there are a few things that look pretty amazing even as adults. But generally speaking, the color trend line is bad. Carpets hatch out the ugliest they're ever going to be. As they get older. They gain contrast and they get a great increase in yellow/red pigment and contrast. So they get prettier, and they're also the most aggressive babies, and they get mellower. So but a snake that's a baby for 6 months and then turns brown for 40 years versus a snake that's brown for 6 months and turns yellow for 40 years, I'll take that. They're not shy. They'll display right out in front of everybody, perched on a branch. They make better display animals. They're big, but not too big. They never need anything bigger than a rat, no matter what. They'll never need it. If you have to feed your carpet anything bigger than a rat, you've overfed it. You've done it a disservice. They're big, but not too big. They have a lot of great qualities, and so I would encourage anybody to check them out. I do get a lot of. I don't want to say like people with bad intentions, because that's not accurate. I get people that are when I get new people wanting a carpet for me, 90% of the time they're coming from ball pythons. So their entire worldview is based on this completely bonkers ecosystem of ball pythons and how the ball python market and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to operate, which is so ass backwards compared to everything else. Because you guys know, you breed ball pythons. What do you do with ball pythons? What do you buy? You buy no males. You buy 47 females preferably ready to breed adults. And then when you have your 47 female army, you buy one powerhouse male that you expect to breed all 47 females when he's 6 months old, and then you just stand back and count money.
Well, I'm one of the chosen few. I've always been male heavy. I am a male heavy because I did it the opposite because I thought it would be better to do the opposite. You know, but
doesn't really bear much fruit for ball pythons either. But that's the
mindset. No, ball pythons. Yeah, that's a different.
All that females, and why isn't this female 6 months old, 1,000 grams already? It's this. And so I get all these people that like they come from that world and they just want to like, hey, I'm looking to pick up 2 or 3 really nice adult female jungles, and I'm like, yeah, get fucked, not a chance. Are you crazy? Like that's not a thing that you're ever going to get. You're not going to get one nice adult female jungle, much less 3. You're going to get 0. You probably couldn't even get one nice adult male jungle because if it's that nice, no one's going to sell it. It
give it to you, correct?
This idea where we are not just turning and burning and like you raised up some trophy snake so you could sell it. They just breed it once, and that is not a thing at all. You never find A-grade adult breeder animals for sale because why would anybody sell them? That's only a ball python thing where that happens.
Well, most of the people, like you said, have worked years and years to get to that. So why would they just start over, essentially?
Not a chance. And it's like they don't get it. Like and the morph thing is, I think, detrimental in some regard because there's so much of a focus on that for these last 25 years that there's a sizable percentage of the hobby that think that's the only thing that matters at all. And why would you even bother if it wasn't a morph? Why would you even have a snake? What's the point of being alive if you're not a triple gene animal? They literally, it's perverse. It's like they've lost all appreciation for how beautiful snakes are naturally. Like morphs are what they are. It's not better than, it's just different than. That's different than a wild type. It's not better than a wild. It's just different. It's like I get these. It's like.
So what locale?
They want to buy all these mega gene snakes and want to try to turn carpets into ball pythons and females. It's like, man, just do your homework a little bit more. Like develop an appreciation for these animals, and you don't. I mean.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what it's called, but I'm assuming it's locality is what makes the different types of carpets, where they come from geologically or geographically. I mean, what is like a good beginner, like somebody that might want a pet just to have in a cool enclosure to socialize with? What's a good locality of carpet for them to probably get?
It's all species more than anything.
Species.
By a country mile is the Brussels python. These are the rusty red terracotta reddish ones, and they're from the central desert. They basically live on an island, but it's an island. They live in a slightly, not an oasis is the wrong word. They live in a slightly wetter patch of desert that is surrounded by a really dry desert.
It's an oasis to the desert people.
Where they are, but they're surrounded by an even drier desert that keeps them in that little area. They are incredibly hardy. They can handle temperatures down into the 40s without ill effects.
Oh, wow.
Without ill effects. They will never have a bad shed. They will never get sick. They will never die unless you hit them with a shovel. They're also tied with ball pythons for the most docile python in the world. So they are one of the 2 most docile python species on Earth, and they are the hardiest python species on Earth by a wide margin.
That's awesome.
So they are slower and the more deliberate. So when you handle them, it's like handling a boa constrictor. They don't jerk around. They kind of calmly.
They know what they're doing. Yeah, they're very confident.
They don't spaz out or anything. They're very
they're very confident in their movements. Yeah,
and they just make great pets, calm, tame, trustworthy animals by and large. That are indestructible. Papuan carpets are an excellent choice. They are the least temperature tolerant, though. So if you had to rank them and who's most likely to get a sniffle, Papuan carpets are going to take the cake for that. They are not prone to getting sick. They are quite hardy themselves. But because they live all of New Guinea is south of the equator, but they're pretty close. They're so tropical that they don't get much temperature variation. So they don't cope with it as well. So they're not as temperature tolerant, but other than that, they are manageable in size. They are generally pretty agreeable in temperament. They're beautiful. They're easy to keep, easy to breed. Babies eat. They're a great one.
Hell yeah.
that's never the answer anybody wants to hear. They want to hear, what steak's the best pet carpet for them to get in the carpets? They want to hear jungle carpets because they're the black and yellow ones.
Or the diamond or some shit.
Diamond's a popular one, yeah.
Jungle carpets are the worst because they are consistently the most aggressive. They're easy to keep, easy to breed, but they're the biggest. They're most likely to be a jerk. Temperament-wise, they're the least. They're not all like that. There's tons of mellow ones.
There's exceptions to every rule, right?
Yeah. I've got probably 180 adult carpets, and I would say there's probably 20 complete lunatics out of that 180, and like 15 of those are jungle carpets. Now, most of my jungle carpets aren't that bad, but most of my carpets that are bad are jungle carpets, and the other 5 are all Darwin carpets because they're the second worst for being jerks. Everything else, your inland carpets are generally super docile. The Brettles are the most docile. Coastal carpets, not bad at all. Poplin carpets, pretty mellow most of the time. It's really just Darwins and jungles that consistently are bitier.
It's crazy because the jungles are the ones that I've seen the most. Like people are like,
they're the most beautiful. Like they're the ones that are popping into the eyes.
I wouldn't say the most beautiful. I like the black and yellow, but I'm kind of with Nick. Like with the reds, I'm a red guy. I have sunset over here. I'm a sunset guy. People hate sunset with ball pythons. I love my bird. I love my Dookie Brown snake. I will take it all damn day. It looks nice red. I'll take it all day. Y'all can hate in the chat. I don't care. I love my sunset. But yes, I will say I love reds. That's my one thing. That's why when I saw the poplin, I was like, man, that I want it. I want it. You know, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, there's been surprisingly little selective breeding done, like a little bit, but not as much as you think for as long as they've been around.
Okay.
I think that morphs really ruined selective breeding in the hobby, and that it provided this shift from like people keeping species and selective breeding them to chasing mutations. Everybody got spoiled because what does a morph do? It provides an instantaneous result with not much effort. It's like, oh, I breed pastel ball to normal ball. I get pastel balls, one stroke, done. Yes, as over the decades, we're just stacking things on top, but each increment you're stacking is easy. The gene does the work. Doing like selective breeding is like, well, to make those ivories, you know, I did that in just 30 years. I held back every damn baby bred animals, and then because they have to go through a color change, if you hold back, and this is why people with carpets don't ever get anywhere, there's selective breeding projects mostly for color, because no one wants to hold back 15 babies for 3 years. They don't. They breed parents together that they have the traits they want, and they look at the babies, they make their best guess which ones the best babies are going to be, they pick a pair, they sell the rest. What are the odds that pair, when it goes through its color change, is in fact the best pair? Probably pair. And the best ones got scattered in the winds. That's why they never go anywhere. I just hold back all of them. I bred ivory zebras the last 2 years, same pairing. The first year, I kept the entire clutch. There was only 9 eggs. I still have all 9 of them. I sold all the ones from 2025 because I had the entire clutch from the same parents the year before. Right. I'm not selling any of them.
So you're not technically line breeding. Like some people would be like, take the brightest baby, put it back to mom. You can do that with 3 lineages and throw in something fresh else in there, so you're not having more or less problems on the road.
Ivory stuff because it's. If you took a normal jungle carpet and a bright white jungle carpet, these snakes are still 99.9% genetically identical. The difference between them is this much.
That much, right.
And to get to white took 30 years. Breed that snake to outcross it to a yellow jungle that's already closely related to diversify genetically, you're going to get this many new genes. And you're going to wind the clock back 15 years. Damn. It's a shitty trade. I did it once. Very calculated. I wanted the zebra mutation into the white ivory line. I selected a zebra that didn't have a yellow scale on it. It was kind of olive green. It was the least amount of yellow. It was the ugliest one I could possibly muster for one of the early clutches. And I used it because why would I want to add I had bright yellow ones, but I'm trying to get rid of yellow, not add yellow. Right. That worked out pretty well. And now I've then back cross those to full ivories a couple generations, and now they're just as white as anything, and I've got the gene in.
And I was going to say
how I did that.
And compared like with carpets, because they look better as they age. So like when you see that original look as a baby, and you're like, all right, well, this is one I think I want to hold back. Compared to like you said with ball pythons, you can think that's the best one and hold it back. And with age, it's not going to be the best one. You should have held maybe 5 other ones back, you know. So
whatever the best one is, I know I have it.
You know you have it, correct.
The hybrid thing is I don't know of any other examples in herpetoculture of a selective breeding project like that. I don't say that to toot my own horn or anything.
No, you're absolutely right. Shit.
I don't know anybody's bred anything for selective bred one direction for 30 years, but also I'm not selecting for white because there's no such thing as white pigment. I'm selectively breeding for a lack of pigment. I'm not trying to bump up the white. I'm selectively breeding to remove the alleles that coded for yellow in the first place. So now they are way whiter than any axanthic because there's just nothing. It's just white. They're devoid of pigment.
That's
effectively, if you have a pigment area with no pigment, that's what piebald is. I basically selectively bred a piebald, where in these bands there just is no pigment is ever even delivered, which is weird.
Well, man,
the yellow white. No, I removed the yellow entirely, and in the absence of any pigment, all white is what there is. It's unpigmented.
All of this is like, you know, everything that you said tonight's really got me wanting to research, and that's really hard to do for somebody like me. I'm a lazy dropout punk.
A really good book recommendation for you.
yeah, for sure. Go ahead. Yeah, let me know. And we're working on a little over an hour and a half. I don't really like to go too long, you know, but I think definitely in the next couple months, maybe if it meets your schedule, I mean, we got to have you back on to talk more scientific craziness.
Because so many different,
dude, I mean, there's so many holes you can jump down, right, and follow that trail, and it's like you can't get everything out in even 2 hours, let alone hour and a half. But
affect your ball python.
Yeah, no, I want to have you come back and soon and squash gene myths about recessive and codom and alleles and all of the
inheritance at all. It is codominance does not describe the mode of inheritance of a gene. It describes the relationship between genes. Not the inheritance of either. Incomplete dominance is the mode of inheritance. Codominance is how these genes, the interplay of those genes together, not how they're inherited. This is a old school Kevin McCurley mix-up from 25 years ago. If you read the definition of codominance and incomplete dominance, admittedly, it is super confusing.
It is confusing.
It is an easy mistake to make, but it was incorrect. And so we shouldn't call things, we shouldn't still
look at codominance as coexist. Like, how do they both coexist together? Both genes work,
One is a blending of genes and one is they're expressing at the same time. It's like, it's like this. But everything people think is codom is incomplete dominance. There is no such thing as codominance.
Dude, and for the longest time, for a few years at least, I've people will say codom, and it's after the research and the stuff. I don't know a lot, but the little I do know, I've always thought it was weird. And I didn't want to call stuff codom. I felt weird doing it. I was like, I don't want to call it that. Like, I'm just going to call it an incomplete dominant.
There are also fully dominant genes, but I'm not even convinced that any of them exist in ball pythons. They are vanishingly rare. Sometimes
people, that's what I'm saying. Everybody needs to DM Nick and tell him to get his ass back to the Sippin' Show.
Come on.
Y'all have questions that we need to answer.
A bunch of stuff we didn't even get to. Like, there's all these mutations in ball pythons. It doesn't even matter what species we're talking about, but certainly ball pythons. You can divide them into two basic categories, and those are pigment distribution mutations and pigment synthesis mutations. Pigment synthesis mutations block or booger up the production of a pigment.
Yep.
Amelanistic albino, T-positive albino, axanthic that isn't really axanthic. These things, hypomelanism, one type of hypomelanism. These mutations block the proper production of a pigment. And those mutations are almost never problematic. The other type of pigment mutation, another type of mutations are pigment distribution mutations. And those are the mutations that the animal can make all the pigments, but they rearrange where the pigment goes. And if you look at all the mutations that have problems, they are all the distribution type. Because pigment cells during an embryo, as a vertebrate embryo develops, there's an area in the early stage embryo called the neural tube, all right? And at the neural crest is the end of that neural tube. This area roughly correlates to what will become the spine in the finished animal. The neural tube is basically imagine it like a factory that manufactures different cell types. Those cell types are made in pairs. They go to the end of the neural tube, which is basically right about the base of the neck. This is all going to be fascinating in a minute, I promise. Right at the base of the neck. That's where they come out of those in pairs. Those pairs of cells migrate to designated points on the developing embryo. They set up shop there. They proliferate and expand and grow in number, and they become the various tissues of the body. Heart cells go over here, build a heart. Liver cells go over here.
The lining coming off the neck goes out.
Right at the back of the head, right? That's where okay. Now, pigment cells are weird in that they cannot migrate out of the neural. Pigment precursors are called melanocytes. These are the cells, these pigment precursors that will become the pigment the animal. They also migrate the same way, but they cannot migrate out of the neural tube, out of the end there themselves. They migrate, they co-migrate. They basically hitch a ride with other tissue types.
The tag-alongs. They're pretty much tag-alongs on other ones.
They hitch a ride. Then when they get there, they do their part and do the pigmenting part, and they link up and make a pigmented animal. When you have a mutation that rearranges where the pigment goes, it often is rearranging what the pigment was riding along with. That's why those mutations are the ones that are always fucked up, because you mixed up the things that it was riding along with. And that usually doesn't cause a problem, but sometimes does. Spider balls, woma balls, pins, any of this kind of calicos, any of this kind of stuff, it does sometimes, because one of the tissue type cells that they migrate with are neurons in your brain. So in some cases, you're rewiring parts of the brain by messing with the pigment on the head of the snake.
For sure.
Obviously, and this is basically why spiders wobble and you get these sort of neurologically impaired things, because you're rewiring stuff that it was riding along with. This is also why piebalds always have a pigmented head. Why? The process of pigmentation of these pigment precursors moving out, hitching a ride, setting up shop, and then they designate points. Those points spread out from that central point like this. They link up with each other. Animal becomes pigmented.
Spider webs, pretty much. Spider webs.
Yeah, until they link up and touch each other, and the animal becomes pigmented. Now, imagine the process of that process has a designated start point and a stopping point, okay? And this is all genetically controlled. So when you have like a piebald mutation, what are you doing? If you have a leucistic mutation, you are shutting the switch off basically immediately. No pigment goes out. Default white snake. If you have a super cinnamon or a melanistic mutation, you're breaking the switch in the other direction. You're jamming the switch open and it over pigments. You're leaving the switch on too long and more pigment just keeps going out. Animal fills in solids, black snake. What does a piebald mutation do? It shuts the process off in midstream. Some pigment goes out, but not all the pigment goes out.
Flipping a light switch.
That's why that's what a piebald
halfway stopping and then boom, going back.
In a piebald ball, why is the head always pigmented? Because it's the very, 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 in any piebald ball, the head will always be pigmented and the belly will never be pigmented. Because the head is the very, very, very first thing that gets pigmented, and the belly is the last thing that gets pigmented, and all the stuff along the back is the middle part. So that's why you'll never see, and if you're shutting it down some point in the middle, you never get white in the belly because it was the last thing. You never get picked. You always get on the head because it was the first thing, and everything in the middle is basically random. And when you see those pies that just have like little islands of pigment, what that is, that was your pair of pigment precursors that made it there, spread out from that central point, but it never linked up because the process got shut down before the other pigment that didn't get to around it never got there. Yeah,
right into the head.
But the patches, those three patches of pigment, those are where a pair of pigment precursors migrated to, spread out, and was unable to link up with the other pigment because the process got shut down in midstream.
Just like
that. The head's always pigmented, and the belly never is, and that's why
never stop. Yeah, never stop mid.
The belly never is. The belly never is.
Will be, and that's how the process of pigmentation works. So when you rearrange things, look at all the mutations that have baggage and problems. Like, it's the pattern mutations. Remember the desert ball where the females would just explode if you try to breed them? Remember that? Were you guys into it before that?
The what balls? I'm sorry, I was reading comments.
There's an incomplete mutation called desert. It was kind of cool looking pattern thing, super reduced, pretty cool. And the females would just die. You could not breed a female. They would get egg bound or drop dead in the attempt. The females were functionally so broken. The males, no problem, but the females, reproduction either killed them or they got egg bound. It was and you never hear.
There was a guy back in the day doing blue ghosts, and he would pair them and trying to make blue ghosts. And I talked to the guy. Actually, me and Kurt. Kurt was in the chat. Talked to the guy, and he was up in Canada, old school back in the day guy. And he's like, "Look, we stopped doing the project because all the babies would die." He's like, "We would barely have some that would live." He's like, "We would keep doing the pairings and nothing would live." You know, it's crazy you're saying desert because it's like there's desert ghosts out there, and I'm like, well, did they work somehow back in the day, desert and some other gene together to make it to where it would work together? Because you have desert ghosts now, so is that part of it, or
that's just a bad naming convention? It is totally
okay.
Separate.
That's where, like, you know, you never know the ball python community, the shit that people do in it. You know, you never fucking know.
The desert name years later for a different mutation that is totally fine to my knowledge. But if you look at all the morphs that have problems, and that's like all this stuff that is homozygous lethal, like spider and calico. Are we still going to pretend there's a super calico hiding out there that no one's magically hit on in 20 years? It's like, yeah, guess what? Shocker. I'm not much for the bullshit that people like this. I mean, it's like, give me a break, guys. Like,
you don't get with the hype.
It's because it was when you bred this calico to calico and you lost that one egg that went bad. That was the super calico. It self-terminated, just like your super spiders and your super champagnes and your super wovables.
Yep.
Nexus of lethal white mutations, which are common in other species. There's lethal white mutations in horses, dogs, chinchillas, all kinds of where the homozygous animals are white and dead. Being white, they're all white and it's lethal and it kills you. You're not viable. That's pretty common across a lot of animals. So we shouldn't.
Yeah. It's not just reptiles; it's mammals as well.
Even like in non-white ball pythons, like sables and all this other stuff, where they're wobbly and spot noses, and they're not white snakes. But what are they all? They're all pattern mutations. All of them are mutations where you can make your pigment just fine, but you're boogering up where it went, and that's what's caused the problem. Find a mutation that has a problem associated with it that isn't a pattern mutation. Even the carpets. What's the problematic one in carpets? Oh, jags. Jag carpets are the same thing. It's the same mutation as the spider and ball pythons. It's identical. And zebras. The super zebras have fucked up tail tips, mostly. Why? That same mutation occurs in blood pythons. They call it a batik, and they have fucked up tail tips too. It's a pattern mutation. When you rearrange the pigment where it goes, that's where you can get into trouble. So we shouldn't be surprised that that's a problem. You should be surprised that so many pattern mutations in ball pythons and species that don't have problems. Yep. The overwhelming majority of them don't have any problems. It should be surprising.
Yeah, I tell people that a lot. I'm like, they hate on spiders or something. I'm like, well, this gene does it. This gene does it. This gene's in the same allele. This gene's the same complex. You know what I mean? And it's like it's a lot more than
spiders. Spider looks gorgeous to me. Like, if you see it in some combinations, you're like, holy shit. But nobody wants it because of the wobble. Nobody wants it because of this or that. Just like Jaguar. Like, Jaguar, I think is fucking gorgeous in carpets. Like, I've seen some shit that I was like, man, that looks.
Here's one way you know that it's not healthy to be a spider. They only ever found one. In all the bazillion, you imagine how many hundreds of thousands of ball pythons have been imported and how many morphs have been found. And generally speaking, with any of these ball python morphs, they find multiple of them over the years. There's been multiple wild piebalgs, multiple. There's been a shitload of wild orange ghosts, tons of different axanthics that were compatible, incompatible, tons of them. They generally find multiple over the long haul of these things in the wild, but they only ever found that one spider because it's just not healthy to be a spider, probably.
Right.
Never found another one.
I agree with Kyle. I like this. I've been learning a lot.
Yeah, I've been learning so much.
Particular beef with spider ball pythons really either, but it's the most recognizable.
They single that one out. Yeah.
Poster child for morphs that have defects. that have baggage.
And like I said, I've seen some crazy, gorgeous looking spiders. I've seen some crazy, gorgeous looking spiders. I've been like, holy shit.
Yeah, you'll see gorgeous spiders. You'll see gorgeous pieds. You'll see gorgeous blackhead. You'll see gorgeous. I mean, there's a shit ton of shit that could have defects or issues, right? Cinnamon, I guess, is one, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's another weird one where, here's another reason why you have defects. And that is that people don't realize, they think that these genes just do this color and pattern thing, and they don't. Most of these genes do a lot of different things. The same gene that does this color and pattern thing is also involved in other processes that don't have anything to do with color and pattern at the same time. And so when you have a mutation that says that this snake, now it's a spider, it's not doing its color and pattern job correctly. Well, guess what? It's broken. It isn't doing any of its other jobs correctly either, and then not doing any of its other sort of ancillary functions not correctly might cause you problems. It's like, I mean, and that shouldn't be surprising to people. It's like, but the idea that like, well, look at a cinnamon ball python. Okay, it's a slightly darker, normal-looking ball python, no problem. The homozygous animal is an all-black ball python, the hyperpigment, but also leads to spinal kinking and fucks up the shape of your snout. Why would a gene that messes with the timing of the flow of pigment and allowing overpigmentation, it also has a role in the formation of the snout.
The snout.
But why these things seemingly
because it messes with more than just the pigment. It messes with everything, neurologically, everything. It has to evolve. It all has a chain link from head to fucking toe, more or less. You know, it has a link.
The zebra gene in carpet pythons, okay, makes a busy pattern heterozygous animal is all busy pattern, great, and they're fine. The super zebra, the homozygous animal, they have tail tip kinking, but why would a gene that rearranges pigment affect your tail formation? It does. And even when you find a super zebra that has a perfect tail, it's not a perfect tail. It's too short. It's like if the ratio of body to tail is not right. So even if it has no kinks or blemishes, it's prehensile, it works just fine. If you line it up next to a non-super, you'd see that the tail is like 20% shorter. It still tapers to a tip. It works fine, but it's proportionally just a little bit shorter than it should be. Why would this pattern mutation have anything to do with the formation of your caudal vertebrae? But it does. It's one of these other functions. All these genes have secondary.
See, now it makes you wonder too, like what genes are given like shorter lifespans, like heart problems or this and that we don't know about. We can't see this thing and tell us, hey, my heart hurts, you know.
It's likely that some of them are unhealthy in the long term. It would be very difficult to figure that out. Would be very difficult. If it's
because they can't speak to us to tell us, you know. So
if it's something that killed them in 1 or 2 or 3 years, you'd figure it out. But if it's something that you only live to be 20 instead of living to be 40, you're not likely to figure it out.
Exactly.
Figure it out.
But there probably is some of these things that like you are, you know, oh well, now you're deficient in this other area now as a result of this mutation that affected your pigmentation, but it just takes a long time to catch up to you. It's, you know, like hypomelanistic Brazilian rainbow boas. Why are they prone to regurgitation? Like, why is having a mutation that affects your melanin synthesis affect digestion? But it does in those guys.
Could that be like too, like, because I know like my mom's big on it, and I know she's been teaching me lately, like different blood types as humans can handle different types of food, and some like certain blood types can handle more red meat, some can handle not as red meats, some can handle, you know, certain types of sauces and stuff. Like, because I have bad heartburn, so my mom's been like going on my blood type and all this shit and different foods, you know. So I wonder, does that have effect? You just said regurgitation. Would that gene messing with it? Could it have, you know, effect?
Theoretically, I'm sure it could. The problem is that like nobody is studying this.
Right.
Academics tend to study the things they can get somebody to pay them to study. So there's a bias in academia towards things that you can get a grant to study. And and those things by and large tend to be things where there's commercial interests, like, you know, where there's a economic or commercial interest or a real strong interest. You know, it's like, so nobody can write, there's nobody you can go to write a grant proposal to get you money to study.
They're not giving money for shit like that.
No. Exactly. It's up to you to do it yourself, you know.
A passion project, which would be a weird one. It doesn't end up happening. So
for sure. So
it's plausible though.
So we're working on 2 hours, and we usually wrap up. We don't usually go over that, but I have enjoyed this thoroughly. I'm sure everybody in the chat has. Where can people find you if like they want to buy a carpet or if they had questions about husbandry or anything like that? Where do you recommend they find you?
In the world to get a hold of. I'm old, so I actually answer the phone, and I'll just talk to you. Like I'm like super easy. My website's inlandreptile.com. I'm all over Facebook. I'm old, so I don't get on. I use Instagram, but I like the old guy that doesn't quite understand it. Like, I have my son like, how the hell do I check my messages on Instagram? Like they changed something. Like I couldn't find how to get to my messages on my phone. It's like I use it, but not as reliably. I'm on Facebook fairly regularly.
Do you do Morph Market by chance?
I do, but Morph Market's like a double-edged sword because I have some things on Morph Market. People think that that's a good place to look at what I have. It's the worst place because I have so many damn snakes. I can't put them all on Morph Market. I don't want to put them all on Morph Market. My website is actually, I actually have an actual website that I actually update every single day. So if someone were to go to my website and look at the availability page.
Is that it right there? www.inlandreptile.com.
It's always accurate. I've already updated it today, and I'm in the middle of doing an update. I have to upload the changes after we get off the air.
I'm about to go on it and look at it. Shit.
Positive albino children's python I'm removing. So I was like, it'll probably still show as being there, but there's actually only 3 because 1 is old. But I update it every single day.
I'm after some carpets off you. That's what I'm after.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat wants to know, you can actually use that link in the comments, and it'll take you directly to it.
There's probably 150 carpets that are not even on it because they're behind me, and I don't photograph.
Well, damn, Nick.
I don't photograph any baby until it eats at least 3 or 4 times, and I won't let it leave until it eats frozen and has eaten 5 times. It takes frozen off the tweezers. So that's
you make
a bit
them eat both. You make
that's
both.
Respectable, though. That's respectable that you do that.
Yeah, I won't sell anything to anybody that eats live because it's just a pain in my ass. And they call me up and like, it's not a problem. Then it becomes a problem. It's like you basically, with a lot of this stuff, you almost have to idiot-proof it. It's like this snake's got to.
You got to do that, with everything.
Everything I told him, and the snake needs to eat anyway. It's got to be on cruise control.
That's what I do. I used to do only frozen thawed because I sell to mainly pet people that they're not breeders around where I'm at in Alabama, and so I would do the frozen thawed thing just for that reason, so people wouldn't blow my phone up. Hey, you got a live rat to sell? Hey, you got a live rat to sell? Or like, I can't get it to eat frozen thawed. I want it to eat, so it is easier if you can get them on frozen thawed for sure.
Yeah, I might start things on live, but it needs to eat at least its last 3 meals. Consecutive meals need to be frozen. Off of tweezers.
You won't even do fresh kill? You do fresh?
Usually no. They generally don't look back, but I won't sell them unless they're taken frozen off of tweezers and have done so. Because you'll sometimes they'll just decide to go back to being a non-feeder, like they didn't like it, and they'll go back and they got to assist feed them or something. But by 3-4 meals, that they never really stop. At that point, they figured it out. So
Well, Justin, what do you got to tell everybody? You got something you want to tell everybody?
Looks like I always tell everybody, there's speed humps in the road. Keep going over those speed humps. Don't bring your head down because the day you bring your head down is the day it brings you down. So guys, keep on pushing through those obstacles, man. They're just obstacles. If you're failing, you're succeeding. That is the main thing people got to understand. If you're failing, you're succeeding.
Justin's so fucking cliche, bro. He's such like it needs to be on a t-shirt or a bumper sticker or something.
Oftentimes, you see people, you might succeed and you learn nothing from success, but failure is a really good teacher. Failure is probably the better teacher. You learn more from your mistakes and your fuck-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can succeed if you take that success for granted, and maybe you don't take away the lesson from that success. But
yep.
It'll kick you in the nuts, and you will learn the hard lessons.
Yeah, you learn to guard them bastards next time.
I have a pressure washing company that's 13 years strong, and I can tell you, if you don't think there was not obstacles and fucking failure after failure, boy, there was some failure.
When you're a kid, you might burn your hand on a hot stove once.
Right.
That's a failure. You failed to put your hand on a hot stove. You don't make that mistake again.
Again. Fuck no.
I'm a firm believer in make it once. You won't make it again.
Yeah, there's infinite.
Sure.
You can take comfort in knowing there's an infinite number of other mistakes you can make and fuck ups you can have too. But it's like you can, but make new mistakes every day. Don't make the same ones again. That's
Right.
Yeah, let's be clear.
Learn
What
from
you
them.
said.
Learn
Don't keep
from
fucking
them.
up. Try to do better. But with that being said, I think like Mitzi said, RWO for life. Nick, thank you for coming on, man. I fucking appreciate your time. And anytime you're able or you want to come back or you want to hang out or talk bullshit, we're always down. And everybody,
Saturday,
don't miss. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get you better on checking your Instagram messages. Okay, we're gonna get better on that. You had me worried a little bit. I was like, damn, I ain't heard from him in a while, but I'm about to send it. Just send it.
Yeah, I'm old, dude. I'm gonna be 53 here in a minute. So
You don't look it. You don't
Man,
look
you
it,
look
man.
good, bro.
Sure
You look
don't
good.
look it.
Like it. If it wasn't his old man gray beard, I think it might pull it off.
I would have
you
thought
look
to
great,
be in
man.
the 30s. I would have never thought it
I'll
for sure,
be
you know.
53 here in a month, but
Well, we have a lot of older viewers, so you
Come
know the older viewers appreciate it. The hell yeah, Sipping with Serpents. Thank you for joining us on this episode 22 with Nick fucking Mutton, the Carpet King. He don't know why they call him that, but everybody DM him and call him the Carpet King.